Good morning, Marelis. How are you today?
Good morning, teacher. Fine, thank you. And you?
Very good, thanks. So, we are going to wait a little bit for the rest. I think 5 minutes, okay?
Okay, teacher.
Okay, Marelvis, I think we can start right now. So tell me, how was your week, your last weekend?
Fine, teacher. Well, I was a little sick.
And did you go outside or did you do something interesting or just stay at home?
No, teacher. I was studying. I was very busy uh, with the work of the university.
Okay, yes. I was busy to study also. So now we are going to start the topic for today. I think this is an interesting topic for us as a future teachers or our teachers if you are teacher right now, because this is the revolution on education, how we can implement different kind of methods or methodologies for implement with our students to change the world. Okay, so let me share my screen. You can turn your microphone off, please. Okay. So, education revolution. This is the topic number 6, okay, for the course. So now I am going to share with you a video, and I want you to pay attention to check if you check new vocabulary or something and the idea of this video, okay? So let me share with you. This is the video. Pay attention to the video, please.
I'd like to talk to you today about a very common, large topic, education, schooling, from preschool all the way through university, all the way to adult education. We love to talk about education all the time, but we love to talk about it in relatively negative ways. I call these negative myths. Let me tell you a story, give you an example. My dad, who's 89, and oh, by the way, when my family got together just before I was going to do this, he kept hearing all this talk about the TED Talk. He finally looks up at me and said, "Who the hell is Ted and why do you have to talk to him?" So my dad can come right here, right now, and recite several great poems from start to finish. Robert Frost, you name it. I'm wondering how many of you can do that. My son, who's 19, freshman at Penn State, couldn't do that if his life depended on it. And then we stop and we go, yes, schooling's gotten worse. The good old days, that's what we want. There's a famous TED Talk, maybe the most famous, by Sir somebody, who tries to argue that education kills creativity. It kills intelligence. It's letting the world down. Nothing could be further from the truth. It's not right. We like to have these negative myths because education has become so powerful in our lives. It's hard to deal with. It's a major game that we all have to play. I've just finished a book called The Schooled Society, where I try to imagine, and I'm going to invite you to do the same thing today. What happens to the world when it becomes educated? What's happening is what we can call an education revolution. All over the world, people are getting more and more educated. People who did not have access to schools and universities now do. The darker the color of the country behind me, the more educated the entire population is. This has been a dramatic effect in just about 100 years. Your grandparents, or if you're young, your grandparents' parents, lived in a world where the average person in the world was illiterate. That's changed in just 50 years. It's not only basic education. Now, 1 out of 5 people around the world who are youth are in some kind of higher education. What has this done to the world? I put together a team of social scientists, cognitive scientists, neuroscientists, and we started off with a very simple but demanding questions. I think the best science is done on the big questions. And we asked, what does education actually do to people? And when we have a lot of people with education, what does it do to our world? And we use all kinds of methods. We worked, not with babies, that's just a cute picture. We worked with guys with the sneakers on there, and we had them do math problems and reading problems. And other people have been doing this kind of work, and it's amazing. Teaching somebody to read, teaching somebody just a little bit about numbers, having them go to school, of course makes them literate, of course gives them some knowledge, but it changes neurological structures. It changes cognitive skills in ways we didn't even know before. And it doesn't just do it once in the early years, it keeps doing it all the way through. Let me give you an example of a fun part of this research. Research is hell, right? Don't show this to my funder. No, I show this because it's at the top of the world. It's in the Andes in Peru. And we went there because it's very hard to find people now in the world who've had no education. But you can find certain places in the world where you can find people that have had a little bit of education, have had no education, and others who've had a little bit more. And we took our team there and we tested people. And we found that even small amounts of education help people think in very different ways. They tend to think more abstractly. They tend to be able to marshal their cognitive enhanced skills to solve new problems. They can count. Not only can they count, they have a sense of a number. We're so educated, we don't realize how strong of an effect that is. It's a major effect. This is those people's kids. The education revolution is caught up here. This is the first generation of Quechua kids who will go all the way through school. When I walked in, they ran up to their teacher and said, Father Christmas has walked into our classroom. You can imagine what my graduate students said about that for the next week. We also have gone to Africa. We went to Ghana, north of Accra. Same kinds of folks. But here we asked, what's the effects of all this cognitive enhancement? And we focused on what people understood about the tragic HIV. And we looked at people without education and people with education. We were interviewing a man who had no education, was illiterate. And he passed around this kind of material all the time. The West has spent billions and billions of dollars on getting the simple facts out. And so we asked him, as we did everybody, about some causes of HIV. And we said, can you get HIV from a blood transfusion? His face lit up. And he said, yes, but not if you wear a condom. It's funny and tragic. This man does not have the skills to put together a working theory of that disease. Education, basic education, has saved millions of lives all around the world. We need to start to understand this, both scientifically and politically. Education is the major social vaccine against all kinds of diseases. Rising childhood obesity worldwide, the smoking epidemic in Asia, the high birth rates in the southern part of the world, which are still very large and very problematic. Keeping children alive, the number one factor is if the mothers had some education. At the same time, this is basic education, so you may want to say, well, what happens when people get more education? Let me finish the story about my father and my son. My son, I told you, could not recite a great poem, right? But my son, ever since he was a little kid in school, has been invited to be a poet. He's written poems. They weren't very good, but he's written them. And he's analyzed poems. And he's been asked to rewrite great poems. My father would never, ever think of that. This is a different kind of education that we're doing. We invite kids to be mathematicians. We invite them to be scientists. This is happening all over the world. This empowers people big time. Not only does it give them cognitive skills, but it empowers them to think, to dare to think, if you'd like. What does that do to the world? There's a lot of interesting impact. Let me share a few. So when we have enhanced skills and enhanced empowerment, what happens? One of the biggest things that's, I think, for a Fulbright audience is it changes world politics. The Arab Spring, the Ukraine. What's happening there? Educated people are leading the way to change. They have the skills, but more importantly, they have the willingness to dare to think about what a nation would look like if it were changed. Ironically, and it's a nice iron, the totalitarian governments around the world in the last 30 or 40 years have bought two things from the West. Guns and armaments, unfortunately, and they bought education. But they bought education for only half of the reason. They bought education because they thought they were going to make a more skilled society. But like a Trojan horse, what they also bought was an empowered population. At the root of all of these conflicts around the world is the education revolution. It has made politics very liquid. We have some discussions about liquid democracy. It also changes religion. A lot of people thought as more people became educated, religion was going to go away. No. The United States is one of the most schooled societies in the world, and it's also one of the most religious societies in the world. But religion changes, education changes religion. It changes from a tyrannical God to, well, Morgan Freeman. If you don't like Morgan Freeman as a God, you can pop in your own. But also, it turbocharges religious movements. Educational folks bring organizational skills. It also creates a world where we respect a lot of religions. And that gives the place for lots of religions to grow. Let me give you one other myth, and this is about my grandfather's a good example. So I was in graduate school at Hopkins, and I went to see my grandfather, my late grandfather, who was then in his 80s. And he said to me, Dave, I want to build a stone wall. Now, my grandfather only had about 6 years of education, and he became a very successful man. And I said, okay, I'll go out and help you. And we'd go out, and within about 2 minutes, it becomes very apparent I don't know anything about building a stone wall. My grandfather had this great cynical laugh. He laughs, and he looks up at me, and he says, Dave, how much education have you had? I put my head down, did a little math. Well, Pop, about 20 years. And he looks up and then he says the statement that stayed with me my entire life since then. And he says, but what can you do with all that education, right? We love to think about who's going to be the carpenters, or are the PhDs going to be the angry taxi cab drivers? That was the image back then. But my grandfather, bless his heart, was wrong. What happened instead was the world changed with me. The world changed because of me and all the other me's. The economy changes. We often like to think that economies change because of technology or supply of capital. But they also change by the skills and the education level of the workers that are available. Firms change the way in which they make profit. All kinds of things happen because there are educated people in the world. We keep predicting over and over again that there's going to be an over-education crisis, that the world's going to fall apart. It doesn't. That doesn't mean that there's no pain. That doesn't mean there aren't winners and losers. But it shows us how dramatic a transforming force education is. Okay, so what's our future and how to think about it? I think it's very important that we start to put these negative myths aside. We like them so much because education is so powerful and it's so hard for us to deal with. We have to deal with it. We have to educate our kids. That's really the only way we can invest in our kids. So we use these negative myths as some relief. But what they do is they obscure what's really going on, not only for us, but for policymakers. And this is really bad. We need to start to understand what education actually does, how it's changed the world. by and large, I think it's changed the world in very positive ways. But we need to harness that going forward. All of the kind of TED Talks that you can imagine, all the subjects, all the audience is predicated on an educated world. That's where we have to start. So I hope we can continue to dare to think about education going into the future. And the next time you hear an overeducation story or education's gotten dumbed down, maybe you'll think of me. Maybe you'll say, no. Let's think about it in a different way.
Okay, this is the video for today. And I am alone right now. So I think this topic is really important for us as a future teachers. For example, in my case, I think we can change the world in this moment. I think we as a new teachers, for example, in my case, I can use different kind of methodologies, different kind of topics, activities to create and motivate my students to learn. The process of study a second language sometimes is boring because it's a lot of grammar, a lot of different kind of words. So I think with different kind of methodology we can implement and motivate the students to realize that the second language can change lives. For example, they can make different travels, trips, they can have good jobs, they can use the second language to communicate ideas, jokes, feelings. So it's important to let them know that the second language can change their lives, because sometimes they can feel boring, they can feel that they don't like this second language, but actually it's important because the second language can change their lives. And also the education is important for us to think, analyze, solve problems. um, the education can change lives also, and we as teachers can change the student lives, because sometimes they don't like this the education, or they feel boring, or um, they don't like the education or the subjects, math. So we as teachers can change that. Actually, I think the meaning of this video is important. And the guy says something that I like. What we can do with all our education. So we've been study, I think, I don't know, 20 years or something like that. But what we can do with this education. So in my case, for example, I decided to be a teacher because I think the second language can change our lives. In my case, actually happened to me. So I think I want to show to my students that this is possible. And with all my education, I want that. I want to change the world, actually. If I can change the student lives, even one, for me it's okay, and it's a good job, actually. This is my dream, and I know I can do it. Actually, I think that the second language bring me this opportunity to me, and I want to share with my students that this is possible. So the education revolution is possible and is in our hands. It's just question of make it possible. Okay, so I am alone. I am waiting for Marelvis, but it's okay. Um, I don't know, maybe she has some problems with the connection. Let me check my WhatsApp. Have a message here, but I don't know. No. So anyway, I am going to continue with my session. So he mentioned something about the education. The is it the education kills creativity? I don't think so. So I think the creativity is possible in the classroom. It's a question of the teacher. The teacher is in charge of the classroom, and he can use different kind of methodologies to use this creativity, so the students can analyze, play, and have fun in the same time with the second language in this case. The creativity is important for the persons, for the kids actually. They like to be they like to use this creativity with the notebooks, um, drawing and doing stuff like that. So with the second language, actually we can use different kind of activities to motivate them, and they can use the creativity to learn. I think the education is not killing the creativity. It's just question of think about that, and the teacher can change that actually. Okay, in my opinion. So, how is the education in Colombia in this moment? I think it's so bad in the public schools. For example, I did my first practice in the INEM here in Tunja, and mm, they just have the possibility to learn English 1 hour per week, and I think this is not just the time to learn a second language, because like I mentioned before, the second language has grammar, has a lot of different things, vocabulary, and we need to practice the second language, and I think 1 hour per week is not enough time to practice it. So I think we as teachers or future teachers, for example, in my case, I want to be a public English teacher. So I think this is not enough time to learn a second language. So I don't know. Maybe with my practice, I can do a lot of methodologies and practice different kind of methods with my kids to so they can learn fast. Actually, this is one of the best thing that we can know, because the kids learn so fast. They like the information fast. They don't want to stay with one topic, for example, 3 months. So they learn so fast. So I think this is important, and we can actually mm, use different methodologies to apply with them. So I saw with my practice that they didn't like the collaborative environments, and this is also something that I want to change, because with the UNAT, with my university, I can share information with my partners. I can use different kind of activities in collaborative and cooperative environments, and this is important actually. I can learn with my partner. They have different ideas, they have different um, kind of um, I don't know. They think different than me, so I can learn from that. So I think this is important, and I want to improve that. in public schools. I hope I can do it, but I think it's important to learn from another person because the other think different than me, and this is nice actually. Okay, so this is important for me. So I have another question. What is the result of one person that then start to study? I think the person can change the way of think. They can be educated. They can learn. I think if one person can learn, they think different. Actually, I think the persons can think different and they can analyze the information and everything around them, and it's important that because when one person starts to study English, for example, they can communicate ideas, thoughts, feelings, and they can travel and make different kind of things that they never even dream. So I think this is important actually. So I am alone still. So now I am going to share with you my screen again. And now I am going to share the second video for this topic, the education revolution. And this topic is this video, sorry, is the people versus the school system.
Albert Einstein once said, everybody's a genius, but if you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, it will live its whole life believing that it is stupid. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, today on trial we have modern day schooling. Glad you could come. Not only does he make fish climb trees, but also makes them climb down and do a 10-mile run. Tell me, school, are you proud of the things you've done? Turning millions of people into robots, do you find that fun? Do you realize how many kids relate to that fish swimming upstream in class, never finding their gifts, thinking they are stupid, believing they are useless? Well, the time has come, no more excuses. I call school to the stand and accuse him of killing creativity, individuality, and being intellectually abusive. He's an ancient institution that has outlived his usage. So, Your Honor, this concludes my opening statement, and if I may present the evidence of my case, I will prove it. Proceed. Exhibit A. Here's a modern-day phone. Recognize it? Here's a phone from 150 years ago. Big difference, right? Stay with me. Here's a car from today, and here's a car from 150 years ago. Big difference, right? Well, get this. Here's a classroom of today, and here's a class we used 150 years ago. Now, ain't that a shame? In literally more than a century, nothing has changed. Yet you claim to prepare students for the future? But with evidence like that, I must ask, do you prepare students for the future or the past? I did a background check on you and let the record show that you were made to train people to work in factories, which explains why you put students in straight rows, nice and neat, tell them sit still, raise your hand if you want to speak, give them a short break to eat, and for 8 hours a day, tell them what to think. Oh, and make them compete to get an A, a letter which determines product quality, hence grade A of meat. I get it. Back then, times were different. We all have a past. I myself am no Gandhi. But today, we don't need to make robot zombies. The world has progressed. And now we need people who think creatively, innovatively, critically, independently, with the ability to connect. See, every scientist will tell you that no two brains are the same. And every parent with 2 or more children will confirm that claim. So please explain why you treat students like cookie cutter frames or snapback hats, giving them this one-size-fits-all crap. Watch your language. Sorry, Your Honor. But if a doctor prescribed the exact same medicine to all of his patients, the results will be tragic. So many people will get sick, yet when it comes to school, this is exactly what happens. This educational malpractice, where one teacher stands in front of 20 kids, each one having different strengths, different needs, different gifts, different dreams, and you teach the same thing the same way? That's horrific. Ladies and gentlemen, the defendant should not be acquitted. This may be one of the worst criminal offenses ever to be committed. And let's mention the way you treat your employees. Objection. Overruled. I want to hear this. It's a shame. I mean, teachers have the most important job on the planet, yet they're underpaid? No wonder so many students are shortchanged. Let's be honest, teachers should earn just as much as doctors, because a doctor can do heart surgery and save the life of a kid, but a great teacher can reach the heart of that kid and allow him to truly live. See, teachers are heroes that often get blamed, but they're not the problem. They work in a system without many options or rights. Curriculums are created by policymakers, most of which have never taught a day in their life. Just obsessed with standardized tests. They think bubbling in a multiple choice question will determine success. That's outlandish. In fact, these tests are too cruel to be used and should be abandoned, but don't take my word for it. Take Frederick J. Kelly, the man who invented standardized testing, who said, and I quote, "These tests are too cruel to be used and should be abandoned." Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, if we continue down this road, the results will be lethal. I don't have much faith in school, but I do have faith in people. And if we can customize healthcare, cars, and Facebook pages, then it is our duty to do the same for education, to upgrade and change and do away with school spirit, because that's useless. Unless we're working to bring the spirit out of each and every student, that should be our task. No more Common Core. Instead, let's reach the core of every heart in every class. Sure, math is important, but no more than art or dance. Let's give every gift an equal chance. I know this sounds like a dream, but countries like Finland are doing impressive things. They have shorter school days, teachers make a decent wage, homework is non-existent, and they focus on collaboration instead of competition. But here's the kicker, boys and girls. Their educational system outperforms every other country in the world. Other places like Singapore are succeeding rapidly. Schools like Montessori, programs like Khan Academy, there is no single solution. But let's get moving, because while students may be 20% of our population, they are 100% of our future. So let's attend to their dreams, and there's no telling what we can achieve. This is a world in which I believe, a world where fish are no longer forced to climb trees. I'll rest my case.
Okay, I love this video actually. It's very interesting for me. So this video is actually really interesting, and it shows the reality of our classrooms. And it says nothing has changed. Actually, the classrooms are the same than before. So this is too bad, actually. And he mentions that we as a teacher can change the world. And actually, I think so. The students are really different. We cannot let them know that they are not unique. Actually, they are unique. They think really different in different way. So I think this is important. So I don't think the evaluation system in this moment it's good. Actually, I don't believe in tests because sometimes they cannot make a real qualification of what you learn. So in my case, for example, I don't like the evaluation system, so I prefer this kind of environments when we can talk, we can speak, and we can check the knowledge of our students in a different way. So sometimes I feel that the evaluation system is kind of scared for them. So I don't like that because actually, in my case, I think we can make mistakes because, of course, we are learning a second language. And this is difficult for us. So I think the evaluation system need to change, and it's important to create different environments for our students, and it's our duty actually. And it's not. I don't like actually the evaluation system that right now is in the schools. Mm, he says something that I like, something about Finland and how they implement different kind of activities and different kind of environments to provide to the students different methodologies and stuff like that that help to the education system. For example, I have here some interesting information from Finland. So they start in the age of 6. They don't have tests until they finish the high school without complex topics. They have time to play. This is important for them. For example, they study 45 minutes, but they play 15 minutes to complete the hour. So the students have the opportunity to study in different places. Um, the teacher are really important in Finland. Actually, they have a lot of different tests and stuff like that to enter in an university. This is not an easy task. Actually, the teacher in Finland is a person who likes to teach and has this gift. Actually, so also they are very good paid. They don't have they don't have problems with the pavement actually. And the teacher do whatever it takes to help the students to learn a second language or different subjects. For example, they have two teachers per class, so this is actually interesting, and I don't think it's possible here in Colombia, but still, it's important to have this partner to communicate ideas. He can help you to with different topics, and they can check the students and their needs, and this is actually really nice. Um, if one method fails, the teacher consults with the other colleagues to try another one or something else. This is really important. They like to think in the student and try their best to help them with the topics. Okay. So also they have this question and I love it, and I hope this is possible here in Colombia. The topics that they see in a rural and in a city place are the same. Actually, they have this quality education because they have these topics in the same time, in the same level. So, if you ask him to somebody from a rural place and you ask him to another in a city place, they can learn in the same time the same things. So this is actually interesting because here we can see in public schools or in private schools, this is not happen. We follow a curriculum, but this is very general actually, and it's nice when we can see this kind of particular things in Finland because this is nice actually. Then everybody has the same level. It's nice, in my opinion. So here we have another thing. They have no rankings. They don't have comparisons or competitions. They don't compete each other. They just learn in the same time and they have fun actually. They are motivated. Um, they don't have rankings or comparisons between the schools or regions. They just learn in the same time. Here in Colombia, we had a lot of different competitions about that, and this is not good actually. I don't think this is important in education. In education, the main objective is learn actually. Uh, Okay. So they like to study in cooperative and collaborative environments, and this is actually really nice because they can learn each other. So I think these collaborative environments help you to solve problems, think in the other, help the other to find the meaning of the process and learn. Actually, this is the main goal. And I think with this kind of environments, we can do it. So now I want to talk about the different kind of methodologies. I love the collaborative and cooperative methodologies, like we saw in, or we are studying in this moment in the UNAT, because these environments help you to improve your learning process and learn in the same time. So I think these environments help you, and these methodologies bring the opportunity to to let to the students realize that we can learn each other. So now I want to share the last video. So this is Fundación Escuela Nueva. Okay.
Ingrid is 10. She lives in San Juan de Arama, a small town in the department of Meta in the center of Colombia, with her parents and 5 siblings. At school, Ingrid enjoys drawing, singing, learning new things, and, like any other child, she loves playing and interacting with her friends. But unlike many children of her age, she actually gets a chance to do so in class, while doing her coursework. Ingrid is studying in a public school that implements the Escuela Nueva model. Escuela Nueva, which means new school, is a methodology that transforms the conventional school and learning paradigm, where the teacher is generally the only one talking and conveying information. With Escuela Nueva, the pupils are placed at the heart of the learning process, allowing them to dialogue and interact with each other and the teacher, and learn through discussion and collaboration. This learning is relevant to their daily lives, which motivates the children because it is meaningful and can be applied with their families and the community. Teachers are trained to be facilitators, guides to the learning process. They use an innovative curriculum and flexible school and classroom management strategies. The pedagogical principles of Escuela Nueva are not new in philosophy. What is innovative about Escuela Nueva is that it integrates these principles into a cost-effective intervention, enabling low-income schools to improve the quality of their education. Escuela Nueva dates back to 1975, when Vicky Colbert and a group of rural Colombian teachers designed this model to provide high-quality primary education to underprivileged in rural Colombia. As in much of the developing world, adequate resources and low achievement were then leading to very high dropout and repetition rates. Rather than tackling these problems in isolation, Escuela Nueva addressed all of these issues simultaneously. Over the years, Escuela Nueva was extended to more than 20,000 rural schools. It became a national policy in the late 80s and achieved significant results with higher school attendance, lower teacher turnover, and improved academic and civic achievements of students. Because of its proven results, it is internationally renowned, and UNICEF, the World Bank, and UNESCO, among others, have rewarded its positive impact in improving the quality and relevance of basic education. Baby Juliana is 26 years old and a former Escuela Nueva pupil. She has very fond memories of her school years. Baby was raised in rural Colombia by parents who, like many people living from the land, were regularly forced to move to find seasonal jobs. This had a detrimental effect on the quality of her schooling. She remembers that when she entered her Escuela Nueva school, the teacher spent a lot of one-on-one time with her, bridging the gaps she had accumulated over the years. Debbie also recalls the importance given to the community and to values such as respect, friendship, and leadership. She is currently in her 4th year of university studying agronomy and would like to specialize in the coffee industry and become a researcher in her field. Cindy Ochoa has been a teacher at the Institución Educativa Manacal, sede San Juan Bosco, since 2008. She sees the Escuela Nueva methodology as a systemic approach to learning, teaching, and interacting with the pupils and their families. For Cindy, the main difference with conventional schools is the way the students are organized and learn in small groups. This encourages active learning and participation and the possibility for children to work at their own pace. Her relationship with the pupils is very important to her. She sees her role as that of a guide and friend. She believes Escuela Nueva has taught her to get to know her students better, appreciate their individuality and potential, and build on their strengths to make them responsible individuals. The success of Escuela Nueva has inspired further replication throughout the developing world. To date, 19 countries have implemented the model, benefiting over 5 million children, and educationalists from more than 35 countries have visited Colombia to learn from this experience and put it into practice. Between 2007 and 2009, in Colombia alone, Fundación Escuela Nueva impacted over 700,000 children, and almost 15,000 teachers and administrators have been trained in the Escuela Nueva methodology. A WISE Award winner in 2009, Fundación Escuela Nueva is a valuable illustration of an organization that has driven and expanded a solution to improve the quality of learning. It has successfully challenged conventional ways of thinking about education.
Okay, this is Fundación Escuela Nueva. Actually, this is a good example of different models and strategies that we can share with students. So the Escuela Nueva is really important in rural places. Actually, they can learn things that they like and they can use for their lives. Actually, I think this is the most important purpose of this Escuela Nueva. They learn different kind of things for their lives, and actually this is important for the students and also for the parents and relatives, for the whole community. Actually, this is really important because the community can use this learning skills for their lives and for their community in general. So I think Escuela Nueva is actually very nice. It's a model active. The students can learn different kind of things that they like, and they are happy for that reason. They like this kind of model because they can learn in collaborative and cooperative environments. This is actually nice because you can learn from each other. So I think they are happy. They are capable to do a lot of different stuff than they can use for their lives and be better in the community. Actually, they can learn different kind of things for their lives, and they are capable to do it. So I think the Escuela Nueva has a lot of different things that we can use in our process. For example, they learn each other. They manage different kind of skills, social skills. They can learn each other, cognitive skills. They are actives in the process. And the tutor is the guide in the process. The tutor is the person who can check the process, if they have questions, if they have problems, and the teacher is capable to solve this and bring solutions to that problems. They have liberty to choose if they want to learn something that bring the opportunity to use at home actually with their families. So it's really interesting this kind of methodology. Um, Actually is a success model in rural places because they learn for their lives. And actually I think this is important. uh, Learn stuff for our lives, to put in practice in our home or in our lives. This is actually really nice because I think here in Colombia, we can see a lot of different things that they learn, they teach to us, but sometimes this stuff is not working for us. For example, in my case, I saw in in my in my school chemistry, but actually I didn't use that for nothing. Actually, it's just question of learn. I think in ninth grade we can choose what we want to do, what we want to learn. Actually, I think this is a process, a difficult process. But for example, in Sogamoso, I am from Sogamoso, but I live here in Tunja. But in Sogamoso, the main school is the El Colegio Gustavo Jiménez, and they have this opportunity for the students in ninth grade. They have the opportunity to choose what they want to learn. So they have three specialties in different kind of places. For example, they have um, something like arquitectura, dibujo gráfico, something like that, and they can choose that. Or if they like something about, I don't remember, like metalisteria or something, working with metal or something like that, they can use that. They can choose that. Or if they like systems, they can choose that. And something else, I don't remember. It's something like motors or something like that. So they have, I think they have more than three. I don't remember very good, but they have something different to choose. So you in ninth grade decide what do you want to learn for your future, and actually they have this specialty for their lives. And it's actually really nice because you can choose what you want to do, what you want to learn, and you can focus in that subject. So I think this is nice actually because you can choose what you want to learn, and how how do you want to learn this kind of subject for your life. And I think this is important. I think the whole public schools should have this opportunity for the students because, for example, in my case, I learned a lot of different things in my school, but I don't think I think I waste my time sometimes because I don't like that subjects. But still, I think we have this kind of models that we can implement. I mean, the Escuela Nueva is for rural places, but we can actually take some stuff from them. For example, I like the cooperative and collaborative environments from Escuela Nueva, so we can implement that in our classrooms. And actually, I think finally, my final conclusion of all this topic is that we can change the world. Actually, we can make a lot of different stuff for our students, and we can change lives. This is, I think, my goal, and I think I can do it. Actually, I think the education is empower people and let them think in a different way, and this is actually really important because sometimes the education is in second place. But I think, in my opinion, the education can change our society and our Colombia. And I think with the education, we can move and we can change lives. So I think this um, let the students think, analyze, be creative, be motivated, be interested for the class. So the education is actually important for our lives, and as also we spend a lot of time studying um, in school or in university. So it's important to implement elements to our lives and to empower this education for us and for our family or our country or city or wherever. So I think the education revolution is possible and it's happening right now. So we are going to be the leaders, and we are going to be the how do you say, like, the tool for this education revolution. So I think it's possible. It's just question of think and be creative with methodologies, models, the process, the topics that we can implement in our classes. And we can also use the technology to implement and be creative with the whole process. And the students can start to learn, practice, analyze, be motivated, and I think this is the major goal that we have. Thank you so much for this class. I am alone, but actually I love this topic because I believe that we can change the world and we can make a big difference uh, in the education system and the schools, actually. So thank you so much. I hope you like my video and see you in the next time. Bye bye.